wanted to take a few minutes today to talk about sugars. So I've always had a lot of clients who are wondering how they can cut back on sugar intake, and for those of you who are doing the Zen Body program, you know it's recommended that you limit your sugar intake, even though the program itself is going to help reduce those sugar cravings. So we know we need to reduce sugar, but then the practical aspect of it is how. So most of us know desserts, ice cream, cookies, Twinkies, all the obvious things. You're going to want to limit, moderate, use smaller portions, maybe limit them to the weekends. But when it comes to stuff we eat every day, there's hidden sugar in a lot of foods that most people don't think about, and so that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. So you see a variety of foods in front of you. Some of them, well, really most of these are kind of in the same range as far as how much sugar you have per serving, which is surprising. I'll start at the right and kind of work my way over. So I have some deli meat here, not because it has a ton of sugar in it, but just because I think it's ridiculous that it has sugar in it at all. So for 6 slices of turkey breast, you have 8 grams of protein and 3 grams of sugar. So you have more than a third the amount of sugar compared to protein, even though it's supposed to be a lean meat, high in protein, etc., etc. So one thing you can do is, instead of buying these like prepackaged store uber processed brands of meat, buy your deli meat from the actual deli counter that they slice there, and that's going to be much lower in sugar and less processed. You don't have to worry about which types of, or I guess which parts of the animal are ground up and smushed together into your meat. So that's one thing to think about. So again, moving right to left, just as kind of a baseline measure, I've got honey here. So in 1 tablespoon of honey, there's 16 grams of sugar. Not surprising, because honey is pure sugar. So that's just kind of something to think about. Know that 1 tablespoon of honey is 16 grams of sugar. And then I have a couple of fruits. So one pear this size has about 13.5 grams of sugar, give or take, and 1 small apple has about 10 grams of sugar. So 10 to 16 grams, we're looking at our natural sugars, things you would find in the wild. Now the benefit of eating fruit, we know it has a ton of micronutrients, we know there's fiber, we know there's lots of stuff that's good for us, so we know oranges have vitamin C in them. So you're not necessarily looking at reducing fruit per se, but if you're like me and you like to eat a ton of fruit, you need to maybe think about ways to pull sugar out of other parts of your diet so that you aren't ending up just eating predominantly sugar throughout the day. One big offender is yogurt. So most people, for some reason, don't think of yogurt as a dessert. We think of it as a breakfast food or a health food. It's not. Yogurt is not a health food. It is high in sugar, usually, again, high fructose corn syrup, typically added dyes, colors. It's very processed. So I do Greek yogurt, but even in Greek yogurt, this particular brand advertises itself with whole grain oats, flax, and pumpkin seeds, all things we think of as healthy. But in 1 serving, you've got 12 grams of sugar, and there are also 12 grams of protein. So that's a 1-to-1 protein to sugar ratio. Not awesome. We do not need as much sugar in our diet as we do protein at all. So if you're a yogurt person and you like to yogurt, consider buying plain yogurt. So I like to do plain Greek yogurt, and then add your own sugar in. So I'll do plain Greek yogurt and then a little drizzle of honey. So I probably don't need a whole tablespoon. I might do a teaspoon, which is going to be a third of the sugar in that honey, so a third of 16 grams. So you're looking at much less than 12 grams of sugar, and that sugar is all natural. Honey also has antibacterial properties. It's supposed to be good for colds. So much preferable to the highly processed, high fructose corn syrup that you're going to find added into most yogurts. And then think about as well, if you're going to do yogurt and going to do some sweets, you may want to limit the other sweets you have. So I know a lot of people whose breakfast will be a regular yogurt and a piece of fruit. Well, that might be a lot of sugar for one sitting. You may need to consider adding in some protein instead of one of those sugar options. Another thing that most of us don't think about, pasta sauce and sauces in general. Any sauce you're going to buy from the store, pretty much anything is going to have sugar added to it, and it's because as things get processed, flavor goes away, and so to add flavor back in, people add sugar. So this particular brand of pasta sauce, I actually stopped using once I read the nutrition facts. I think my husband bought it because it's the, generic brand and it was cheaper, and then we looked at the ingredients and I was like, oh no. So we've switched over. This one's been in my fridge for way too long and it's getting thrown out after this video, but in 1/2 cup serving of pasta sauce, you've got 10 grams of sugar. So there's the same amount of sugar in 1/2 cup of pasta sauce as there is in an apple. Why? That's absurd to me. So when you're looking at sauces, make sure that the primary ingredients are actually what you're looking for. So in a pasta sauce, I want to see tomatoes. I want to see water. Water and tomatoes should be higher up on the ingredient list than sugar. Always. You know, I want to see mushrooms and cheese and anything like that, but I don't want to see sugar in my pasta sauce. Salad dressing is another major offender. Most of us, first of all, use too much salad dressing anyway. So serving size of salad dressing is 2 tablespoons. I typically use about 1. I've never been a big dressing person, but I know people who use half a cup of salad dressing, which is a lot of servings. And in 1 serving, so in 2 tablespoons of this orange poppy seed salad dressing, there are 8 grams of sugar. So again, almost as much sugar in 2 tablespoons of dressing as there is in an apple. That's so unnecessary. So if you are a salad person and you're trying to get healthier, pay attention to that. If you order at a restaurant, ask them to put the dressing on the side. You can control how much you add to your salad. You don't have to worry about not knowing how much has been added in there and shaken up. And then I like to make my own dressing. I like to just mix balsamic vinegar and olive oil. You get some healthy fats in there. It's got good flavor. You don't have to worry about all the sugar. And again, the more unprocessed you go, the less added sugars you have to worry about. Another big offender is bars, breakfast bars, cereal bars. So again, most of us, for some reason, our breakfasts tend to be really high in sugar, and we want to maybe thinking about moving towards making breakfast higher in protein and lower in sugar. So this is a Luna bar. I keep them in my diaper bag because when I start to get hangry or miss a meal or I'm out on errands with the baby longer than I need to be, it's a quick source of energy. And when you get hungry, hangry, your blood sugar drops, and so you do need some sugar back in there. But keep in mind that 1 Luna bar has 11 grams of sugar in it. So there is more sugar in a Luna bar than there is in an apple. And you eat an apple and you think, oh, this is really sweet. Most of us eat granola bars, and I mean, they're sweet, but we don't think of them as a dessert or as a sweet, but they really are. That's really where they should be classified. So 1 Luna bar has 11 grams of sugar, even though it's all natural, even though it's 99% organic ingredients, gluten-free, you name it, it's still high in sugar. It doesn't matter if the sugars are cane sugar or corn syrup, there's a lot of added sugar in it, and that's something we really need to pay attention to. And then on the breakfast track, I don't have an example of this, but smoothies are a big offender. So a lot of people, when we think about starting to try to get healthier, will start juicing or making smoothies, and juice and smoothies are some of the highest sugar foods you could possibly consume. That doesn't mean you should never have them, but think about what you're putting into your smoothie. So if you're making a smoothie and you're making it with fruit juice concentrate, which is really high in sugar, and then you're adding in berries and apples and a ton of fruit, you're going to have a really high sugar drink. So think about putting some sort of quality protein source in there. I like to put peanut butter in my smoothies because I really love peanut butter, and then you get a little bit of healthy fat as well. So I'll do smoothies with like almond milk, peanut butter, some protein, and then maybe some blueberries, but much lower in sugar than if you do a really high, smoothie type of drink. Bread is another offender that I'm celiac, I'm gluten-free, so I don't really have to worry about this one, but for a lot of people, bread is a really high source of sugar. So 1 slice of probably like Wonder Bread, or really a lot of whole grain breads, 1 slice of bread will often have as much as half a teaspoon of sugar in it. And the daily recommended amount of sugar is only 6 teaspoons. So you're looking at getting 1/12 of your daily sugar intake from 1 piece of bread. So if you were to eat 2 slices of toast with breakfast and then a sandwich with lunch, that's, 2/6? So 1/3 of your daily sugar intake just in bread. That's crazy. So think about that. Think about what you're buying. Maybe switch to whole grain, 9 grain. Sprouted breads are really good for you. Tend to be much higher in fiber and are less processed. So that's a good route that you can think about going. And then the last thing I want to cover is alcohol. So most of us know alcohol isn't necessarily great for us. Lots of studies show the benefits of red wine, especially on your cholesterol. But think about portions. So 1 pour of red wine is like 5 ounces. You don't need to be drinking a whole bottle every night. And just remember that any of those, cider drinks, any sort of cocktail, it's going to have a lot of sweetener in it. So maybe think about switching to a red wine or at least a beer or something that doesn't at least have added sugars, and then limit your intake. Make sure you're not going crazy with it. So that's just kind of my overall tips for hidden sugars in our everyday foods. There's plenty of other places you can find sugar, and I'm sure there's a lot more information for you to learn, but this at least helps some of us with the basics and getting started. And if you have any questions or want to hear more about the Zen Body program, feel free to send me an email at p31health@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye.